The time is precisely 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe says that the support of the IMF is further needed. Another team from the International Monetary Fund is expected to visit Sri Lanka next week. Kristalina Georgieva has pointed out that the debt restructuring program is important to the development of Sri Lanka's economy. Promotions for over 1,800 army personnel to mark the 74th anniversary. Israel Prime Minister warns Gaza action only just begun as Hamas threatens hostages. Local stories in detail. The Sri Lankan delegation attending the 2023 annual meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund looked for support during discussions with representatives from the two global agencies. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe, who is leading the delegation, posted that he, along with Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and Secretary to the Treasury Mahinsa Siriwardana, met with the Executive Director of the IMF, K. Subramaniam, to discuss the progress of the IMF program and the current economic conditions, including challenges and opportunities faced by Sri Lanka's economy. He also said that a discussion was held with the Executive Director of the World Bank, Parameswaran Iyer, about the program supported by the World Bank to Sri Lanka and expressed gratitude for the support provided to the economic stability and success of the reforms in Sri Lanka. For Sri Lanka, the 2023 annual meetings are particularly important. The country is currently facing a severe economic crisis with high inflation, low foreign reserves and a large debt burden. The government is in the process of negotiating a bailout package with the IMF, and the annual meetings will provide an opportunity for Sri Lankan officials to discuss their progress and support from other member countries. Another team from the International Monetary Fund is expected to visit Sri Lanka next week. Minister of Justice, Prisons Affairs and Constitutional Reforms Dr. Wijedas Rajapaksa said the team will hold extensive discussions on the second tranche of the extended fund facility for Sri Lanka. The discussions will focus on the country's tax policy and the economic factors. He said that officials are hoping to reach a final decision on the matter later next week. The common framework is starting to deliver, even if still too slowly, said Kristalina Georgieva, the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, ahead of the IMF and World Bank annual meetings in Morocco. Noting the fact that Sri Lanka, among other nations, took several months to move from a staff-level agreement with the IMF to secure creditor assurance needed for approval for an IMF-supported bailout program, she stressed that faster progress is necessary and we are moving in the right direction. She said more needs to be done to support vulnerable emerging and developing countries. This is why we urgently need to strengthen the global financial safety net. The common framework is intended to deal with insolvency and protracted liquidity problems along with the implementation of an IMF-supported reform program. The Sri Lankan government is also in the process of restructuring its foreign debt, which totals approximately $51 billion. The government has already begun talks with foreign creditors, including the Paris Club and countries such as India and China. The government's goal is to reduce its foreign debt by $17 billion through restructuring. However, it is unclear how long this process will take or what the final terms of restructuring will be. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
Moving on with the local stories, Parliamentarian Vajra Abeyewardene says that as a nation we have become devastated for not thinking as Sri Lankans. If it is to rebuild, the middle class should be strengthened. He made these remarks while participating in the Subhati program of the SLBC today. The business community in the country should be strengthened in order to achieve the best. Attention should be on national land policy, national business policy and on foreign policy. All should provide their support to the government in order to provide a better future for the people. A total of 314 officers of the Sri Lanka Army and a record 1,565 other ranks of the Army have been promoted to their respective next ranks in view of the 74th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Army today. The promotions were made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces on the recommendations of the Ministry of Defence and Army Commander, Lieutenant General Wikum Lienage. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe says that the support of the IMF is further needed. Another team from the International Monetary Fund is expected to visit Sri Lanka next week. Kristalina Georgieva has pointed out that the debt restructuring program is important to the development in Sri Lanka's economy. Promotions for over 1,800 Army personnel to mark the 74th anniversary. That ends the local news for now.
People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Taking a look at the main news story, the delegation of 140 Buddhist laymen and priests, including Shi Wu-yan, leader of Baolin Temple in China's Fuzhou province, arrived at the Bandaranaike International Airport last night. They arrived in the country to accept the award of honorary name conferred by the Sri Lanka Ramagna Mahanikaya. The Baolin Buddhist Temple is a 1,200-year-old Mahayana Zen temple. The award ceremony is scheduled to be held on the 15th of October at the Ramagna Mahanikaya headquarters in Narayanpeta, Colombo. 8 monks and 132 lay representatives were present in this Buddhist delegation. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on with Watchlight, the passenger ferry service, which was scheduled to commence operations today, has been postponed for another 2 days, the Ports, Shipping and Aviation Ministry said. Accordingly, the ferry service will commence on Thursday. The service was to commence today, connecting India's Nagapattinam and Sri Lanka's Kankasanthurei. That ends Watchlight. On to the world news, the headlines. Israel Prime Minister warns Gaza action only just begun as Hamas threatens hostages. Myanmar, 29 killed in artillery strike on camp for displaced people. Afghanistan earthquake, more than 1,000 dead as villagers dig for survivors. Israel will use enormous force against the Hamas militant group, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned. He says the Israel Defense Forces' retaliation for the worst attack on Israeli soil in decades has only just begun. About 900 people have died in Israel since Saturday's surprise attack, including 260 people massacred by Hamas gunmen at a musical festival. Since Israel began striking Gaza in response, almost 690 people have died on the Palestinian side. Hamas armed wing has threatened to kill a hostage every time Israel carries out an airstrike without warning civilians. At least 29 people, including children, have been killed in an artillery strike on a camp for displaced people in Myanmar. The camp is located close to the military camp of Kachin Independence Army, an insurgent group fighting the country's ruling military junta. A spokesman for the KIA told the BBC that all the victims were civilians. Myanmar has been embroiled in conflict since 2021 military coup displaced the country's government. The exiled National Unity Government, NUG, has blamed the junta for the attack on the camp, describing it as a war crime and crime against humanity. Rescuers are digging for survivors of a powerful earthquake that flattened whole villages in Afghanistan, killing more than 1,000 people. The 6.3 magnitude quake struck Saturday morning in Herat province, a barren landscape dotted with mud brick homes. Villagers are still using showers and bare hands to search for more than 500 people missing. The UN says aid delayed by blocked routes and communication lines being down only started to trickle in Monday. These are fears. Death toll could be much higher. To conclude the world news, the headlines again. Israel Prime Minister warns Gaza action only just begun as Hamas threatens hostages. Myanmar 29 killed in artillery strike on camp for displaced people. Afghanistan earthquake, more than 1,000 dead as villagers dig for survivors. That ends the world news.
Development news.
The arrival of tourists is being increasing daily. Therefore, the development of the hotel sector will also be expanded. Accordingly, EKHO Surf Hotel located in Bentota will be open next month after the renovation activities. The hotel is comprised with 100 rooms and 250 million rupees has been allocated for the reconstruction work. That was development news. On to sports news. The match of World Championship between Sri Lanka and Pakistan will begin at 2 p.m. today. At present, the Pakistan team has won one match of the tournament, while Sri Lankan team was defeated at the first match. Mahesh Theekshana will likely participate at today's match. Meanwhile, the match between the England and Bangladesh teams is being played in Dharamsala. Batting first, England has scored 165 runs for 1 wicket at the end of the 27th over. That ends sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life ekේ change eකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Ceylon Institute of Builders, the premier professional body of building and construction professionals in Sri Lanka, launches Construction Expo 2024, which will be held from the 15th to the 17th of March at the BMICH. The press conference in this regard was held recently at Galadari Hotel, where the main sponsors of Construction Expo 2024 were also introduced. Ceylon Institute of Builders President Dr. Rohan Karunaratne said, Construction Expo 2024 will be a hub for the major players locally and internationally. It will provide a common platform for all industries that likely construction and will give participants a chance to showcase their products and services which cover all spheres related to the industry. That ends business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life ekේ change eකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth eකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On economic news, FAX Sri Lanka 2023, the gem and jewellery exhibition will be held from the 6th to the 8th of January in Colombo. It has been organised by the Sri Lanka Gem and Jewellery Association and the National Gem and Jewellery Authority. This will be the biggest gem and jewellery exhibition to be held in Asia. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. The Meteorology Department says showers or thunder showers will occur over most places of the island during the afternoon or at night. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in the Uva, Central, Sabragamua and in the eastern provinces. Showers may occur in coastal areas, the southern province during the morning. That ends the weather report. And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe says that the support of the IMF is further needed. Another team from the International Monetary Fund is expected to visit Sri Lanka next week. Kristalina Georgieva has pointed out that the debt restructuring program is important to the development in Sri Lanka's economy. Promotions for over 1,800 army personnel to mark the 74th anniversary. Israel Prime Minister warns Gaza action only just begun as Hamas threatens hostages. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.